Live from Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Senate confirms appointment of former Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, as new Minister of Defense. U.S. imposes visa restriction on individuals violating religious freedom in Nigeria amid allegation of genocide. European Union steps up financial pressure on Russia, vows to increase cost of war for Putin with new Ukraine loan plan.
In business, AMCON confirms repayment of about 3.6 trillion naira to the Central Bank of Nigeria since inception.
And in sports, Edo State gets hosting rights for the second Niger Delta Games, with competition set to hold in February 2026.
Tonight begins now. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight at the Upper Legislative Chamber, where Nigerian lawmakers have confirmed the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, as the new Defense Minister. General Musa's nomination was conveyed by President Bola Tinubu in line with Section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution, and taken up immediately by the Committee of the Whole during Wednesday's plenary. News Center's National Assembly correspondent, Sagie Ibrahim, observed the exercise and now reports.
President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, reads the President's correspondence nominating General Musa for ministerial appointment, setting the stage for a tense security-focused screening. Lawmakers took turns interrogating the nominee on issues around recent attacks, tracking financiers, border security, internal sabotage, and coordination gaps in counter-insurgency operations.
I think one mistake we make is we think the armed forces can solve all the problems. The armed forces solution is just 20-25%. Majority has to do with good governance, building capacity, working together with all the other MDAs. So we need to harmonize all this diplomatically again, our neighboring countries, Cameroon, Chad, Niger, Benin Republic. We need to also reach out to them, because if they're able to secure their own borders, it means our own borders will be secured.
However, there was a mild disagreement in the chambers after Niger East lawmaker Sani Musa moved a motion for the nominee to simply take a bow and go.
I feel we should just allow this gentleman to take a bow and go. Not carry. There's not. This is it. Look, most of the questions are security questions. Most of the questions are security questions. Not at this time.
This is not a period we should say bow and go. Even Donald Trump is on our neck. We have not yet asked him what his response will be to Donald Trump, the President of America. He is not just anybody. Chief of Defense Staff, a nominee for a Minister of Defense of a country, and you stand up and say you should take a bow and go, with so many questions on the mouth of Nigerians, with over 200 Nigerian children in the bush, kidnapped and being tortured. His appointment is heralded all over Nigeria with happiness, because Nigerians believe he has something to offer. Give the man an opportunity to give Nigerians hope.
More questions and concerns came in for the retired general, especially on addressing internal sabotage, with others drumming support for the ex-soldier.
We must stop ransom payments. And in doing that, sir, even when ransoms are being paid, because people want to do that, we can track the money is being paid and where does the money come from. There is a lot you can do using the banking system, that we can do these things and track those things backwards. The use of technology is very important. And like I said, sir, if we're able to have a database and every Nigerian has a number linked to everything you have electronic, we can monitor anything.
Following a voice vote, the Senate approved and confirmed his nomination. General Musa says he is set to hit the ground running, pledging to return to the Senate chambers within 3 weeks to brief lawmakers on the true situation of things and his strategy on how to proceed further. Musa, a 39-year military veteran and Nigeria's 18th Chief of Defense Staff, was nominated by President Tinubu to replace former Defense Minister Badaru Abubakar, who resigned on health grounds. From the National Assembly, Abuja, for News Central, Sagi Ibrahim.
Sagi now joins us for further information on what played out at plenary today. Sagi, speak to us on what you observed at Wednesday's plenary compared to other screenings that you've witnessed.
Felicity, I would say first of all that this is the first in a long time that we've seen an individual who served as Chief of Defense Staff transition within a period of 2 months to becoming, the Minister of Defense. It was just in October that I had attended the pull-out parade for the Chief of Defense Staff retired, the 18th Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa. And now 2 months later, in December, he has now been nominated, screened and confirmed as the Minister of Defense, with expectations that he will bring those 39 years of experience to bear in the administrative and policy side of things, especially as it regards to security and securing, Nigeria. For most of the lawmakers who asked questions with regards to the situation in Nigeria, it was more like getting a deeper understanding of what he intends to do this time that he's no longer in uniform, now that he's going to be in the government and policy side of things, more than it was about a question about his competence and whether he was going to be able to do the job. I mean, we saw the visuals where one of the lawmakers, Senator Sani Musa from Niger East, had actually moved a motion for the former Chief of Defense Staff to take a bow and leave, but the urgency and the sensitivity of the issues that were asked and brought forward, became imperative upon for the Senate President to caution, the lawmakers to say, well, it's not a good time to say take a bow and go, considering the sensitivity of the situation. So from what we observed, competence is not the question. Just expectations, so much expectation considering the situation of things in the country. We've now had, a spring up and, an increase in the activities of non-state actors and the activities of insurgents, some of which are now coming up in states that usually were not in the news. Talk about Niger State, talk about Kwara State, where we've begun to hear incessant attacks, being carried out. Talk about Kogi State that has been in the news in the last 1 week. Because of attacks, abductions, talk about the situation, that we saw in other states as well. Kogi State, where, the MAGA students were kidnapped. These issues were pushed to the front burner, particularly the Senate President saying there is a need to clarify to Nigerians and give them some form of understanding to know the reason why, first of all, the Kogi State governor has been out in the media to say a few minutes before the attack was carried out in the Government Girls Comprehensive Senior Secondary School, Maga, Kogi State. Troops were pulled out of that vicinity, and it gave an opportunity to the assailants to carry out their attacks unhindered. There were also other issues that were raised, particularly the circumstances around how Brigadier General Uba, his communication was intercepted, his location was exposed, and he was picked up by these assailants. So a lot of questions about how issues can be addressed, but none about his competence to do the job.
All right, Sagi, thank you very much for the coverage.
Pleasure.
Staying on security matters, the United States has announced new visa restrictions targeting individuals accused of violating religious freedom in Nigeria. The United States Department of State says the measure will affect individuals found to have directed, authorized, supported, or carried out violations of religious freedom. The restrictions may also extend to their immediate family members. In a statement titled "Combating Egregious Anti-Christian Violence in Nigeria and Globally," the State Department said the action follows continued reports of mass killings and attacks on Christians in Nigeria, blamed on radical Islamist extremists, Fulani ethnic militias, and other violent groups. Ebenezer Obadare, Douglas Dillon Senior Fellow for Africa Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, says the United States should pressure Nigeria to make Sharia law unconstitutional. Obadare spoke as an expert witness at a roundtable convened by U.S. lawmakers on Tuesday in Washington to discuss Nigeria's escalating insecurity and an alleged targeted persecution of Christians. At the discussion, U.S. lawmakers had accused the Nigerian government of trying to run out the clock on the matter. They described the killings as a targeted campaign of religious cleansing, vowing to act quickly and save more lives. We're now joined by two constitutional lawyers, Libors Oshoma and Yusuf Nuruddin, for some perspective. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'll start with you, Libros. There seems to be a consensus when it comes to Nigeria collaborating with the U.S. to fight terrorism in Nigeria. But would you say the same for the U.S. Congress pushing to pressure Nigeria into disbanding Hizbah and banning Sharia law?
Look, there are approach to everything. We understand Nigerians support the visa restrictions on the promoters of violence, whether religion or otherwise in Nigeria. Nigeria also supports collaborations. Nigerians, everyday Nigerians, support collaborations with not just the U.S., anybody, any government that can help Nigeria to combat insecurity, terrorism, and banditry. But one thing that is certain is the fact that there are domestic issues that you cannot dabble into. Even the U.S. has not been able to ban Sharia law in applicability in the U.S. because there are certain places where even Muslims are pushing for the application of Sharia law in certain areas. Even in London, there are areas where Muslims are pushing for Sharia law. So that is, except the U.S. do not want solution to our problem, except they want Nigeria to implode. It's a way of life of a people. For the fact that certain persons are using it, to foment, to create chaos, to cause mayhem, does not mean that you can just sit down and brand, a religious practice as something that should be banned. And that's where the government needs to be careful. And that's also where the U.S. needs to, draw the line. You don't just sit down in the comfort of your country. Some things you have not been able to do in your own country, you just, okay, Nigerians should do it. We know we have challenges, and a lot of them are masquerading as religious extremists and the rest, and Nigeria needs collaboration. In fact, for me, this visa restriction should not just be for people who are pushing a religion extremism. It should be for everybody in government. Once there is visa restrictions for everybody in government, we'll sit down here and fix our country. But the idea of telling us what to practice and what not to practice, I think the U.S. might be taking it too far from there.
All right, let's go on a quick break. And when we come back, we'll be asking Yusuf about the visa restrictions. Stay with us. We still have constitutional lawyers, Libors Oshoma and Yusuf Nuruddin, for this conversation. Yusuf, I mentioned talking about visa restrictions when we return, just like the collaboration to fight insurgency and insecurity in Nigeria. Visa restrictions seem to enjoy some favor among Nigerians. But there are those who would argue, wouldn't naming, if they know these persons who they want to impose visa restrictions on, wouldn't naming and shaming these individuals be a more effective approach than just restricting them from visiting the U.S.?
Yes, thank you very much. The issue of visa restriction is a very good approach to sanction Nigerian leaders to sit down here with us and solve the problem together. And I believe that just making a blanket rule without giving description to the category of people whom you want to, use this thing as some form of punishment for is not good for us. We need to know, and I think about when President Buhari was about to leave the presidency, there was a report about some people who were sponsoring this thing and sponsoring banditry and terrorism in Nigeria, and the government, later held on to that report. So I think these are issues that we need to really understand, and let us even know who are behind these issues. Because again, you see people take millions of nairas as ransoms, and who helped them move this money? Who helped launder this funds? We know that so many institutions are going to be involved, and we are willing to know the category of people who are behind our problem, and knowing them in itself is going to, since we know them and they cannot escape from our country again by placing a ban on them, I think it's going to be a better way for Nigeria and the government of the country to visit them with the right proper sanction by prosecuting them and making them face the consequence of their actions, because nobody should have this kind of power. We should stop playing diplomacy or using diplomatic words around issues that really goes to the core of our existence as a country. From just this evening, we're discussing going for a matter in Ibadan, and people were warning me to be careful, because just on Lagos Abeokuta Expressway, from interchange to Abeokuta, we have issues of kidnap there. So we need to know, and Nigeria deserves to know. And if we know, I think is a first step in the direction to see how we can begin to put effective sanction on these people. So more than just making it blanket, we need to know the description of people who are behind. And I know that the US may have superior information in terms of the category, because once they make the money, what they do is to take the money out of the country to stretch it in the account outside of the country, and so on. You have a way of tracing this fund. So they should assist Nigeria with this intelligence.
Libras, let me come to you and ask while testifying, Dr. Badari acknowledged that the Nigerian government has made an effort based on the pressure from the U.S., but he went on to say that the U.S. should not relent, even though the Nigerian government have started acting in ways that shows that they're taking the threats seriously, that it should apply more pressure. So my question would be, how much more pressure can the U.S. exact on Nigeria?
I think it is very shameful that it is when...
The question is for liberals, actually.
Okay. Yeah, so sorry. Let me, before I quickly come to your question, I know time is not our friend on this platform. Before I come to your question quickly, permit me to say that if you remember the case of Gumi, he was to visit Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi Arabian government rejected, his application. I don't think also that the US just has one list kept somewhere and says, okay, yes, these are the people we are going to ban, we are going to restrict. They probably would have, intelligence gathering. And so gathering intelligence, anybody that comes within that radar, and then they can, apply those sanctions as they come. And the moment these sanctions are applied, just like Gumi's case, certainly Nigerians will know that certain persons was rejected from entering America, just the way it happened during the election. And then coming to the issue of pressure, Nigerian government had consistently maintained that it is not just Christians that are being killed, and that everybody in Nigeria is in danger. And another thing is, why the U.S. is exerting pressure, the killings are skyrocketing. So it's as if the more the U.S. speaks, the more the killings, the more the threats, the more the spread. And then the government keeps reacting. So there is something that is amiss here. The big question we should be asking, you saw some of the guns that we saw the, bandits wielding. These are not rifles that you can just buy, off the shade. These are highly technical guns that, you don't just buy anyhow. So where are they getting it from? Who is equipping them? Where are they coming from? So let's also investigate this U.S. angle. It is not enough to say we are exerting pressure and then the bandits are becoming, more daring. The U.S. made an announcement Kidnapping of students just suddenly started, and then the bandits are doing videos, releasing videos with coordinator and the rest, and then, the government keep reacting. So we need to take a step backward a little bit and look at our own internal mechanism for fighting this terrorism. Right. It's not just enough for us to say, oh, the U.S. is exerting pressure, and then it is the U.S. pressure that is making us to work. Because I really also know, looking at the U.S. and also the Venezuelan issue and the Nigerian issue, the oil and the rest. So I really don't trust the U.S. so much with all of this, so many noise. But I think the government should put much more effort than wait for all this pressure from the U.S.
Yusuf, to what extent could the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern and associated visa restrictions serve as leverage to compel Nigerian governments to take stronger actions against jihadist terrorist groups like Boko Haram and ISWAP, which allegedly exploits Sharia frameworks and Hizbah groups to impose extremist ideologies?
I think that part of the Sharia thing is a narrative that we need to really, a conversation that we need to have in the country, because, we're in a country with heterogeneous population. We have a part of the country which was 90% size of Muslim population, and we cannot say that Sharia is the reasons why this is happening, because Sharia in itself is a way of life for people. And when you look at the word Hizbah, it means holding people to account. Just like Lagos State government has neighborhood watch security outfit. That is what the Hizbah should be doing in the north. But yes, this has been abused, and there's a clock of saying that this is happening under the guise of these guys. But we all know that these guys are cashing out. It's an economic activity. It is more than, it is an exploitation of, some natural resources. And we know that there are international, countries out of Nigeria who want to exploit these resources from us and who doesn't want to go through the proper means. So these are issues that we need to, conversations that we need to have to see that these issues are not just covered in the blanket of whether it is Sharia or it is not Sharia. We need to understand why is this thing happening in some part of the country and what makes this thing more rampant. I saw a video of Major Al-Mustafa, and he said there was a particular mineral resources in Borno State that is worth more than $27 million per gram, and you see that this thing is happening in Borno State. We had that in Zamfara. There is gold almost everywhere, and we see that this thing is rampant in Zamfara. So to what extent are we interrogating the economic part of this conversation rather than just covering it with the cloak of religion? So I think the government need to look more into this issue. We need to, because we need to measure the correlation between these issues so that we will not offend the sensitivity and sensibility of a group of people who believe that they have a way of life and they are doing the activities lawfully within that range. Because when you look at Section 275 of the Constitution, it gives any state who desires it to have a Sharia court and to practice Sharia law. So we can't say that is.
I'm afraid that's the much time will permit us for this conversation. Liberals, thank you as well. Yusuf, thank you for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Coming up, Nigeria joins the world in commemorating International Day of Persons with Disabilities. This and more after the break. In Plateau State, the Disability Rights Commission has commended the state's disability community for their strength, resilience, productivity, and contribution to governance despite their challenges. Chairman of the commission, Lengnen Joban, made this known during the launch of the Renewed Hope Initiative Economic Empowerment under the Renewed Hope Initiative program of Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu. News Center's Chizoba Anyowe tells us more.
These are some of the people living with disabilities in Plateau State. They are here for this year's event where the world celebrates their strength, resilience, productivity, and contribution to governance despite their challenges. The state chairman of the Disability Rights Commission commended key actors in the state for their commitment in making their lives better, even with limited support.
All these business grants that started 2 years ago, as commission, we are following it up. And truly, it is helping our people. There are some of our people that we can boldly say that they have established what we call livelihood. Yes.
Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, gave the sum of 250,000 naira each to 250 persons living with disabilities in the state as she launched her Renewed Hope Initiative Economic Empowerment Program to assist them across the country with financial grants to improve their livelihoods. The First Lady was represented at the event.
This program aligns with the renewed hope agenda of His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which seeks to promote inclusive growth and shared prosperity by ensuring that no Nigerian is left behind, especially those whose needs are often overlooked.
Some other stakeholders expressed optimism at the expected outcome of the event.
The Plateau State government reaffirms its commitment to improving the welfare and social protection of persons living with disability. We recognize the challenges you face, and we are working tirelessly to create an inclusive society where everyone can thrive.
We will continue to advocate for accessible infrastructure and full social inclusion. Thank you, Your Excellency, for charting this path of equity and empowerment.
The event also called on all stakeholders to ensure the theme of the event is sustained, which is fostering disability-inclusive societies for advancing social progress. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Aniui.
Thank you, Chizoba. J.K. Pele is a policy analyst and advocate of rights of persons with disabilities. He joins us to discuss what to expect at the commemoration of this year's Day of the Persons Living with Disabilities. Thank you for joining us. Now, in light of this year's theme, which is fostering disability-inclusive societies for advancing social progress, how effectively has Nigeria integrated persons with disabilities into national development agendas?
There's been that integration, there's no doubt about that. There has been an open-mindedness on the part of government and several organizations to ensure inclusivity. But in practical terms, we haven't seen a tangible implementation outcome. We have not seen a tangible implementation outcome. And I applaud the First Lady. I mean, give it to her. Even when we celebrated Albinism International Day, she issued a statement. That's what First Ladies do. They look for worthy causes and associate with those causes just to advance the cause, you know, as much as possible. But you see, the kind of thing that they are doing right now, which they consult widely, the kind of thing they're doing right now is almost like promotion of tokenism, you know, and trust me, those that will get that money by this time next week is gone. It's gone. We need to look towards system. We need to look towards system, how we can focus on system.
So talking about that, I mean, time is an issue on the news, so I want you to speak to specific reforms that are needed to enhance this inclusion that we're looking at in both political representation and economic empowerment.
Well, I'll go one step at a time. Funding is number one. The commission is grossly underfunded. There are credible organizations across the country that needs some form of capacity building, not necessarily cutting them a check, but some form of capacity building. So funding is number one. getting persons with disability to be in the room while you formulate what kind of project or program that you're going to roll out as a way of intervention for them. You know, if they are not part of it, then you just be running solo, and at the end of the day, you won't be able to serve the community. Thirdly, leadership, getting persons with disability to vie for leadership position and win and occupy those positions. So the needle is shifting. It's not just having us to vote, but also for us to be voted for. So participation in the political process is very important. Social integration amongst the populace is also very important. Persons with disabilities suffer a lot in the area of relational casualty. Many of them have lost their relationship. Many of their spouses walked away. Some of them outright wickedness, others as a result of societal pressure. So we do have some of this issue to deal with. And of course, when it comes to the realm of the fourth estate, the media, we want to see more inclusive media. We want to see more media organizations like yours get involved to ensure that there is inclusive reportage.
All right, how can voices be amplified to push the drive for more inclusive policy changes in government? Is it youth-led civil society? You've mentioned the media already.
Mm-hmm. Well, Felicity, listen, I think your organization is a typical example. You know, I'm part of your analysts. You know, every time, from time to time, you give me the platform. I want to see more persons with disability also given the platform. There are many of them that are smart, that can dissect, delve into issues, and give you perspectives. So we want to see more of such voices amplified through the powerful media like your own and several others. You know, so there's a need for emergence of self-advocates, you know, who would speak truth to power and ensure that they actually know what they are saying, because you won't bring anybody on TV if he doesn't know what he's saying. So there is that need to raise more voices, and we can do it by giving them opportunities, as the case may be.
Jack, always a pleasure to have you on the news. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you, Felicity. You have a great evening, and your audience as well. God bless.
You too, sir. You too. Let's go back to Kogi State now, where the governor, Usman Ododo, has presented an 820.4 billion naira appropriation bill for 2026. The bill, titled Budget of Shared Prosperity, represents a 35% increase from last year's budget and outlines plans to boost infrastructure, strengthen the economy, and expand social protection. News Center's Mono Balagbobo has more.
Kogi State's 2026 draft budget stands at 820.49 billion naira. According to available estimates, recurrent revenue is projected at 470 billion naira, driven mainly by the Nigerian liquefied natural gas dividend, value-added tax, statutory allocation, and a projected 44 billion naira in internally generated revenue. Recurrent spending, including personal costs, overheads, and debt servicing, totals 367 billion naira, while capital expenditure is set at 453 billion naira, targeting infrastructure, education, healthcare, agriculture, water resources, and social welfare programs.
Our fiscal proposal is titled Budget of Shared Prosperity, Driving Sustainable Growth for All. This theme reflects our commitment to equitable development and inclusive governance. Mr. Speaker, the 2026 budget is anchored on a balanced fiscal framework that efficiency, and transparency.
Earlier, the Speaker of the House, Umar Aliyu, reaffirmed the Assembly's commitment to a transparent and people-focused budget review process.
This honorable House remains committed to a budget review process that is thorough, transparent, people-oriented, and development-driven. We assure Your Excellency of our readiness to give the budget legislation as a limited yet diligent consideration consistent with global best legislative practice.
With deliberations on the 2026 appropriation bill set to begin immediately, lawmakers say the proposal is expected to strengthen governance and boost socioeconomic opportunities across the state. In Kogi for News Central, Morno Balagbobo.
The Trump administration has suspended all immigration applications from 19 nations under travel restrictions, including green cards and citizenship processes. The countries for entry suspensions include Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen. For partial restrictions, it includes Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, Venezuela. Some naturalization ceremonies and interviews for applicants from these nations, such as Venezuela, Iran, and Afghanistan, have already been cancelled. The European Union is stepping up financial pressure on Russia as the war in Ukraine drags on. Speaking in Brussels, Ursula von der Leyen has unveiled a new European Union plan to provide Ukraine with up to 90 billion euros in funding over the next 2 years. Von der Leyen said the proposal is aimed at increasing the cost of war for Russian President Vladimir Putin as Moscow's invasion enters another prolonged phase.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
In business, the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, has repaid about 3.6 trillion naira to the Central Bank of Nigeria since its establishment in 2010, according to the CEO, Benga Alade. Speaking at a media party in Lagos, Alade said that although AMCON purchased toxic bank assets worth 1.7 trillion naira, it still owes about 3 trillion naira. He highlighted that AMCON stabilized the banking sector by absorbing toxic loans, injecting fresh capital, and boosting depositor confidence. Let's also tell you that Nigeria's Eurobonds held steady through November despite heightened U.S. scrutiny over rising domestic insecurity. Now, we see that the market strengthened as average yields across the 13 federal government Eurobonds fell by 69 basis points to 7.59% on Tuesday, down from 8.28% at the start of the month. Prices also climbed, with the average bond now trading at about $102.79 compared to $99 on November 1, reflecting improved investor appetite. Analysts say easing global interest rates and expectations of fiscal reforms continue to support Nigerian debt instruments. We'll be back for stock market report in a bit. The NGX is tiptoeing upward, but nothing dramatic anyway, just a quiet flex. We see that the all share index inched up by 0.27% to settle at 145,323.87 basis points, and of course 0.27, while market capitalization is at 92.63 trillion naira, actually showing some sort of cautious optimism, which actually drifted across the trading floor. Now, looking at the sectoral performance, it was a mixed bag, but as we see that the banking stocks did some heavy lifting at 0.65%. Insurance followed with modest gains of about 0.27%. Oil and gas took a slight spill down, 0.47%. Consumer goods and, of course, industrial goods managed to stay in the green with 0.38% and 0.47%. Of course, showing that there's always a sector keeping the engine humming. That's it on business. I am Lekon Onobanjo.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
And in sports, Edo State has been awarded hosting rights for the second Niger Delta Games to be hosted in February 2026. The first edition was hosted by Akwa Ibom State and was won by Bayelsa State. The announcement was made at the Edo State Government House, attended by Governor Monday Okpeholo, NDDC Managing Director Stanley Obuku, Deputy Governor West Idahosa, and other top officials. According to Obuku, Edo State was deliberately chosen for the 2026 event because of its strong sporting facilities, adding that the NDDC will rehabilitate selected venues and, of course, ahead of that tournament for the athletes.
And when we looked around, we felt we have to come knocking on Edo State. Because, Your Excellency, your state have also done very well by having good sports facilities. And when we looked at the facilities, we felt coming to Edo State, we might not have too much work to do, but we just come and have fun by taking advantage of the sporting facilities you have put in place. Edo State is one state that have done very, very well in the sporting history of Nigeria. Even at the level of National Sports Festival, Edo State.
Now, CAF and FIFA have jointly confirmed a set of regulations for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, outlining competition dates, player release rules, and coordination measures ahead of the Continental Showpiece. The tournament will officially run from the 21st of December 2025 to the 18th of January 2026, marking the latest shift in the competition calendar as AFCON becomes fully aligned with the men's international match calendar, securing its place in global scheduling. One of the major updates is the mandatory release date for players, which has now been set for the 15th of December. This represents a 7-day reduction designed to ease long-standing tensions between national teams and European clubs, whose domestic season will still be active at that time. Now, FIFA today unveiled the world-class entertainment lineup for the show to be held for the final draw for the FIFA World Cup 2026, which is set to take place at the John F. Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. this Friday. With millions of viewers expected around the globe, the show will bring together some of the most recognizable names in entertainment as football's biggest stage prepares for a landmark moment. The show will be co-hosted by supermodel and Emmy-winning television personality Heidi Klum, a comedian and actor Kevin Hart, and actor-producer Danny Ramirez. The audience will be treated to live performances by Italian maestro Andrea Bocelli, British superstar Robbie Williams, and American singer Nicole Scherzinger. And that's a wrap on Sport Update. I am Udoka Njoko.
All right, now we're diving straight into entertainment with so many controversies going on. But hey, music legend Tubaba Idibia has addressed the growing controversy surrounding his marriage to Natasha Osawaru, warning that online speculation is becoming dangerous. In a recent video message, he said, what began as private family issues has blown out of proportion, with false posts now circulating in his name. Now, the singer insisted he's perfectly fine and urged the public to calm down, stop the rumors, and end the panic. He also expressed concern for his wife's safety as the situation intensifies. Now, the crisis has drawn political attention as well, as the Edo State House of Assembly summoned Natasha over alleged misconduct. Felicity, do you have anything to say about this? Because this is the biggest conversation right
I just had to write it down first.
Okay.
My heart goes out to them as a couple. People go through challenges. I just pray that they resolve it quickly. That said, when it was couple goals, there was no video to warn people to back off. Okay. That's on the one side. If you put your private matters in the public, you would expect some response.
Yes.
On the flip side of the coin, I think that as a people, we have an unhealthy interest in people's personal life disguised as concern. And then they become content for people who are looking for content. So it's a mixed bag. But at the heart of it is, let's pray that they resolve their issues quickly.
Well, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We're praying for them.
Well, that's all we have on entertainment tonight, by the way.
And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Do send us your eyewitness report or your thoughts, feedback, remarks on our production here to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on social media platforms at News Central TV, or you could choose to watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Evo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for being here. A pleasure to serve. Good night.